Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday worship at the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Kate, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning as we explore the mysteries and even the miseries of winter. Whether you're taking part in this worship celebration from your home or wherever else you may be, wherever you log on, you are welcome here. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this protracted pandemic. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. That is welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Following our service, please join us as well for our hospitality hour. And now here's David from our board with announcements for today. David.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm David Charnushenko, member of the First Unitarian Board. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who attended last Sunday's town hall regarding affordable housing on our campus. A summary of discussions as well as the consultants' presentations will be posted soon on our website. A follow-up meeting will take place on Wednesday, February 9th at 7 p.m. on Zoom naturally, where responses to questions raised and major topics that arose will be presented. In the announcements in this week's EUU, the Mental Health Support and Action Group is shown to be meeting at 1 p.m. today. This is an error. It meets at 1:30 p.m. And finally, from the Environmental Action Group, thanks to all who participated in the citizen feedback to Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault concerning the government plan to meet Canada's 2030 environmental goals. Citizen input is really important. This week, check out the EUU or the Climate Action page and join in the advocacy to strengthen and reintroduce the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. The present act is decades old and needs major updating to deal with today's omnipresent toxics and pollutants. That's all for today's announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, David. During the continuing pandemic, we encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Check our Facebook and Instagram pages and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, albeit much of it online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community.
Thank you, Kate, David, Jen. Bonjour, mes amis. Good morning, one and all. We are here together virtually, but still together on this beautiful January winter morning. I'm the Reverend Eric Meter, and I'm honored to serve this community of faith. We light our chalice this morning to these words adapted from those by Brian Kiley. In times of darkness, we stumble towards the tiny flame. In times of cold, we seek the warming fire. In times of repression, we reach out for the lamp of truth. In times of loss, we pray for the comforting light. In times of joy, we light a candle of celebration. Spirit of life, as we kindle this flame, help us all find what we may need this day. our chalice is lit. And now for our opening hymn, Chant for the Seasons.
Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us. Gray the windy storms, cold upon our cheeks, the wet rain glistens, glistens. Winter world has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us. Leaping is the fire, golden in the glass, the cider glows like amber. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us.
Thank you, Jen. The call to worship this morning is adapted from words by Angela Herrera. Consider this an invitation to you. Yes, you, with all your happiness and your burdens, your hopes and regrets. An invitation if you feel good today, and an invitation if you do not, if you are aching. There are so many ways to ache. Whoever you are, however you are, wherever you are in your journey, this is an invitation into peace. Peace in your heart, and peace in your heart. And with every breath, peace in your heart. Maybe your heart is heavy or hardened. Maybe it's troubled, and peace can take up residence only in a small corner, only on the edge, with all that is going on in the world and in your life. Ni modo. It doesn't matter. All that you need for a deep and comforting peace to grow lies within you. Once it is in your heart, let it spread into your life. Let it pour from your life into the world. And once it's in the world, let it shine upon all beings. Come, let us worship together.
I am the Reverend Ellen Bell. I'm the spiritual care visitor for this congregation. And at this time in the service, we accept personal joys and sorrows and place stones in water to recognize these. And as the stones enter the water, they create ripples which send these wishes and concerns out to the universe, where we may commiserate or celebrate. The world has lost a great man, Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and teacher. He was very, very well revered by many millions of people, and his loss will be greatly he will be greatly missed. He was 95 years old, a good long life. A stone for Paula. Hope you are feeling better. A stone of congratulations for Peter, who is celebrating his 72nd birthday today. I am going to put in a stone for COVID. I haven't had any names specifically of people who are dealing with Omicron, but I'm sure, unfortunately, there are probably still people who are. So our thoughts go out to you. I have one here from Mary. Mary and Harold celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary in March 2021 during the COVID lockdown. They had a tiny party at a distance and received at Christmas a wonderful memory book of photos and notes from their family. That was from Mary. One last stone for all the joys and sorrows kept within our hearts. And now let us have a moment of silence.
Hi to everyone, happy Sunday. It's Nao, your Director of Religious Exploration. Today I have for you 2 short poems about winter. The first is titled, Winter is the Best Time. Winter is the time to find out who you are. Quiet contemplation time, away from the rushing world. Cold time, dark time, holed up, pulled in, and space. To see that inner landscape, that place hidden and within. The second poem is titled Winter Morning Poem. Winter is the king of showmen, turning tree stumps into snowmen, and houses into birthday cakes, and spreading sugar over lakes. Smooth and clean and frosty white, the world looks good enough to bite. That season to be young, catching snowflakes on your tongue. Snow is snowy when it's snowing. I'm sorry it's slushy when it's going. I hope you all enjoyed those 2 little winter poems. These are a couple pictures from our outdoor RE session last Sunday. Students, the kids built a snow volcano using baking soda and vinegar. And they also got very creative. And so we got some pink lava and blue lava. And here's another quick picture. This coming Sunday at 11, we are doing a scavenger hunt. The location is the children's playground. And we're also inviting children to bring their sleds because we have a nice little sled that'll be perfect for toddlers for sliding. Wishing everyone a very happy Sunday.
Thanks again, Jen. Early in my conversations with you, so either last spring or sometime during this last summer, a member of this faith community asked if I was ready for Ottawa winters, if I was ready for -20 degrees C. In order to stave off an expression of panic, I may have substituted a thin smile. This is a defense mechanism of mine to remember something shocking or intense, so the threatened possibility doesn't seem so bad, or ideally, something I'm not all that concerned about. In that moment, this is where my thinking went. To a sweat lodge beside a lake on a full moon January night in Minnesota over 20 years ago. I was there, the guest of a friend of mine with Indigenous ancestry. There were roughly 20 others with us that night, and roughly half of us were Wasishu of European descent. On the way to the sweat lodge, there were several stops to make. One was to pick up 2 Indigenous young boys. Once the stops were done and we were on our way, my friend Tom asked the boys how they would describe the sweat lodge experience to first-timers like me. Well, there's no food in there, was the immediate reply. A reply that I noted through the rearview mirror carried with it its own impish grin. Truer words have seldom been spoken. During the sweat, the heat was so intense, I couldn't tell where the sweat rolling off my back ended and the dirt, well, mud of the lodge floor began. And then, after carefully exiting the lodge at the end so as not to trip into the hot stones at its center, the grace note. Standing under the clear moon and starlit sky, steam rising from our bodies into the night. While I doubt the truth of this now, it seemed then half an hour before we began to feel the winter chill once more. These moments stay in my memory, a talisman of grace and a testament to the promise of endurance, a gift that only winter can provide. So with that said, this morning, what I'd like to do is, along with our worship associate, Kate, to share with you a variety of reflections in prose and poetry on the myriad gifts of this season, keeping the challenges of winter in mind. The cold with temperatures that remind us of math lessons, the snow and long nights, the kids of all ages sledding, skating, strapping on skis, donning toques, mittens, and underlayers, as I think they're now called, enjoying hot chocolate and other festive drinks, fireplaces aglow, snow shoveling and snow tires, layers of winter clothes, wool, fleece, down, corduroy. Does anyone wear corduroy anymore, or is that just an autumn thing? No matter. Kate, will you take it from there? What do you have for us now?
I have a Winter Blessing by Kathleen McTeague. The world catches our hearts through its light, splintering dance of sun on water, calm moonlight poured through branches, candles lit on early winter evenings, a spatter of stars on a clear night, and the bright eyes of those we love. But the brilliance never ends, even when the light goes out. Mystery shimmers and shines in the world, in even the darkest corners. It's there where the roots push life into soil and rock, in small lives lived under every stone, there in the silent pulse beneath the tree bark. It's in the depths of slow tides as they turn, there in the sky on moonless nights when muffling clouds block out the stars. It's there in the prison, the hospital, by the hospice bed, there at the graveside, in the empty house. Something beating in the dark shelter of our hearts, the small shine of hope, the gilt edge of kindness. May we be granted the gift of deeper sight, that we may see with or without the light.
And this is Mark Bellatini's Winter Sequence. Gray skies over my head, throw yourselves like quilts over my busy life, and remind me to sit down and rest. Stars of winter, Orion's sash sparkling across the heavens, remind me by your distance that compared to the infinity of the universe, every single thing I struggle with on earth is small, parochial, and hardly universal in scope. Great music of the season, glowing with angel songs and filigreed with great mysteries, remind me that my own birth, like the births of all people, was no less miraculous than that ancient and celebrated birth, no less brimming with wonder, for all children that come into the world have lives as precious to them as Jesus's life was to him. So now come love, greater than my longing, silence grating than fatigue of tongues, and haul my heart away from the undue frenzy of the season, and bestow it to rest, proportion, and the haunting dark beauty of winter's long nights.
And I have a reading from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. For our winter picnics, we would walk all morning on snowshoes and then build a fire in the center of a circle, stomped down with our webbed feet. By this time, the pot was full of bubbling tomato soup. The first draft poured was for the snow. Here's to the gods, we would proclaim. Only then would we wrap our mittened hands around our steaming cups. And an epigraph from Elin Kelsey's book, Hope Matters. A hummingbird alights at the very top of the snow-drenched cedar. Not a drop of nectar in this winter snowscape. Birds have no pockets, no provisions. How would it feel to embody such courage?
And now, from Life in a Cold Climate by Bill Bryson. This is from Bryson's book, I'm a Stranger Here Myself, Notes on Returning to America After 20 Years Away. Born in the American Midwest, Bryson writes here about making a new home in New England during his middle years after several decades, I think, living and teaching in the UK. He begins, something rather daring that I like to do at this time of year is to go out without putting on my coat or gloves or any other protection against the elements and walk the 30 or so yards to the bottom of our driveway to bring in the morning paper from a little box on a post. Now, you might say that doesn't sound very daring at all, and in a sense, you would be right, because it only takes about 20 seconds there and back. But here is the thing that makes it special. Sometimes I hang around out there just to see how long I can stand the cold. I don't wish to sound smug or boastful, but I have devoted much of my life to testing the tolerance to extremes of the human body, often with very little regard to the potential peril to myself. It is through this work that I have made some important breakthroughs, notably the discovery that very hot surfaces don't always necessarily look hot, and that temporary amnesia can reliably be introduced by placing the head immediately beneath a cupboard door. I expect your instinct is to regard such behavior as foolhardy, but let me remind you of all those occasions when you yourself have stuck a finger into a small flame just to see what would happen, or stood first on one leg and then on the other in a scalding bath, waiting for an inflow of cold water to moderate the temperature. At least when I engage in these matters, it is in a spirit of serious scientific inquiry, which is why, as I say, I like to go down for the morning paper in the least encumbering apparel that decency and Mrs. Bryson will allow. This morning, when I sent off, it was -19 Fahrenheit out there. Unless you come from a really cold place yourself, or reading this in a chest freezer, you may find such extremes chilliness difficult to conceive of. So let me tell you just how cold it is. Very. When you step outside in such weather, for the first instant, it is startlingly invigorating, not unlike the experience of diving into cold water, a sort of wake-up call for every corpuscle. But that phase passes quickly. Before you have trudged a few yards, your face feels like it would after a sharp slap. Your extremities are aching, and every breath you take hurts. By the time you return to the house, your fingers and toes are throbbing with a gentle but insistent pain, and you notice with interest that your cheeks yield no sensation at all. The little residual heat that you brought from the house is long gone, and your clothes have ceased to have any insulating value. It is decidedly uncomfortable. 19 degrees below zero is unusually cold, even for northern New England, so I was interested to see how long I could bear such an exposure, and the answer was 39 seconds. I don't mean that's how long it took me to get bored with the idea, or to think, gracious, it's rather chilly, I guess I'll go in now. I mean, that's how long it took me to be so cold that I would have climbed over my mother to get inside first. In any case, I was dreading the long, cruel winters in New England, but to my surprise, they delight me. Partly it is because they are so shocking. There really is something exhilarating about the sharpness of the cold, the cleanness of the air, and winters here are stunningly pretty. Every rooftop and mailbox wears a jaunty cap of snow for months on end. Nearly every day the sun shines, so there is none of the oppressive gray gloom that characterizes winter in so many other places. And when the snow begins to get trampled or dirty, there is generally a big new fall that fluffs it up again. People here actually get excited about winter. There is skiing and ice skating and sledding on the local golf course. One of our neighbors floods his backyard and turns it into a skating pond for kids on our street. Our local college has a winter carnival with ice sculptures on the college green. It is all very cheery. Best of all, you know that winter is just one in an endless cycle of reliable, well-defined seasons. When the cold starts to get to you, there is the reassurance of knowing that a good hot summer is just around the corner. Apart from anything else, it means a whole new set of interesting experimental challenges involving sunburn, poison ivy, infectious deer ticks, electric hedge clippers, and, this goes without saying, barbecue lighter fluid. I can't wait. The snow is dancing. And this is the reflection Polar Vision by Elizabeth Tarbox. She writes, I went to the beach on the night of the full moon. I am accustomed to walking on this slip of land at all seasons and all hours. Here, I meet the muse. She reaches into my dreams, calls out of me the ghosts of my history, and with them shapes my future. This night there were cold, mooncast shadows and slabs of blue ice, braced one against the other, spread across the beach. This was a landscape I'd never seen, a wind-whipped, winter-sculpted world, a temporary ice-made rock formation along my slim, smooth strait of land. I tried to walk forward, and my shoes slid beneath me over the sheer face of these frozen chunks. Strange and graceless was my body, sliding about in a dance without rhythm or choreography. But there was something connected too, something I could only understand with the instinctively animal part of me that braced its muscles against the wind. That part of me belonged on the rocks of ice that night, the part that didn't mind the wind stiffening my face and hands. I wanted in that moment to be covered with coarse hair and to turn my long wolf nose to the moon and howl out my being, or to race on all fours across these frozen slopes with fresh snow dusting and whitening my polar fur. But I am dependent upon clothes to keep my blood from freezing, and I am ill-suited for survival in this hard-edged landscape. We live with the illusion that we are able to shape our lives and make them fit a pattern that we have chosen. Rather, our lives are shaped by a rhythm and a creation so vast and beautiful that the greatest force of human ingenuity can barely glimpse it. Take some time to get ice cold this winter, out there in some frozen waste of a back lot or beach, or a forest with white branches dipping in homage to the season. Feed the clarity of thoughts, sharpened by a blast of truth from winter's wind. Look up. Look down and feel the throb of your heart, warm and beating. Let go of all illusion and be at peace.
Those Winter Sundays by Robert Hayden. Sundays, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering, breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him, who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? And now I have a reading from Come of Age, the case of elderhood in a time of trouble by Stephen Jenkinson. And in this passage, Jenkinson is reflecting on his early adult years as a farmer. And then there's winter, the unvarnished deity of northern farmers. Winter is a rough god. Most people don't dream of winter when they dream of this life. The place is now on a foot of undreamt of hard pack that's halfway to ice, and you're in an eternal January in the north of the hemisphere. On the farm, the mauve shadows are everywhere, and there's more twilight than daylight. This could be early morning's first light coming through the hoarfrost on the window. That's how similar they are. In your careworn places, it feels so late. This is an extreme time of year, and like all extremes, winter simplifies life into light and dark, yes and no. It doesn't seem like it can be morning so soon. The slurry of worry runs the days into a stream of sameness. General fatigue persuades you that these must be evening chores that are coming on. So you pull on the torn overalls, that unfortunate hat. You're on a well and off the grid. You are sustainable as hell, and it's midwinter. Water is hard to come by, and you're a water miser now. You mop the furnace floor of what you spilled while you were pouring straw, and melt water that you were trying not to waste from one frail plastic bucket to another. Plastic buckets are from the sheep yard. They were a donation from the donut shop in town as a half hour from your place. Read the labels on the bucket and you'll never eat a donut again. The pails are useless or worse at minus 35 degrees, with handles that snap off when pressed into light duty. But they were kindly given, and the gift was community-minded. In a place where community is more and more a seasonal phantom worn thin by the onslaught of cottagers. The sheep you've dreamt of could come to you in any number of ways. Some farmers can't bear the expense, can't bear the plunge in meat prices, and they give them away. Some quietly bring them to the back 40 and shoot them behind the ear, unable to watch them go. You could risk the auction, but not knowing what you're looking at could cost you dearly. Yours might come to you from a dissolving marriage, from an ornery, soon-to-be ex-wife of a gentleman farmer. She lets it be known to mutual friends she'd rather see them dead by the side of the road than with that bastard. But she settled for them being spirited off the place under cover of dark, without her soon-to-be ex-husband knowing, stuffed in the back of a lone pickup and driven 4 hours by accomplices to your place. You have no yard, no fences to speak of, and not much experience with sheep manumitted from a dissolving hobby farm. You know you'll probably need a pickup of your own soon. The expenses of the simple life are mounting. That's how things start, your spectacular foray. People will say that you're living the dream. Maybe you are.
Thank you, Kate. And now Judith Campbell's poem, Out of Season. A flash of purple out of season, a clutch of tiny crocuses caught in rhyme without a reason but my need to mark their time. Pushing out of dark security bent and curl against the cold, untimely beauty here and gone, their too short story told. Just days ago, too warm for winter seemed far more like May. So crocuses, who do not heed our ordered Roman plan of day and week, responded as only they can and grew. Today, the tiny purple masses shiver in a cruel, still winter wind, in sunshine false and cold as charity. And then I see with perfect clarity this flash of purple out of season, caught in rhyme without a reason, other than there need to be, is a parable that's meant for me. That beauty really is its own reward, that best laid plans with charted graphs and demarcations, foolish, bold prognostications, hold nothing of the mystery I see within this flower out of season. Or so I thought, until I thought, for everything, there really is a reason. And finally now, this reflection titled Bathing in Starlight by Kathleen Mateague. It was the end of a hectic day and the start of a kind of evening familiar to anyone who's juggling work and young children. Time is the enemy, relentlessly streaming past, leaving in its wake an endless clutter of unfinished tasks. Like a flustered hen in a backyard, I clucked and fretted as I hustled my children along through homework, dinner, bath time, and bedtime stories, always trying to get things to move a little faster, fighting against the ticking clock. With the kids finally in bed a half hour later than I'd aimed for, I fussed my way out the door to give the dog her walk, bustling along as my fretful mind danced through a dozen other still unfinished chores. I was halfway down the driveway before I glanced up. My jaw dropped. There before me, the whole spread of the Milky Way splintered out across the clear black sky, stars behind stars in the deep pool of space. And then I finally stood still, washed in starlight that had been traveling toward me for millions of years. I was brought to my senses and nearly brought to my knees. Because bedtime had been late, my children were still awake. To their delighted surprise, the mother hen reappeared in their bedroom doorways, no longer clucking, and carried them one at a time, pajamas and all, out into the crisp winter air to bathe in the ancient light. Maybe this is all we can bear of the cosmic perspective on time, this little glimpse of eternity that lets us see our small lives connected to everything else on so massive a scale. My awe at the immensity revealed in a clear night sky doesn't leave me feeling diminished or irrelevant. Instead, it reminds me that if we can be present exactly in the moment we are living, we can step outside time altogether. We live immersed in that eternity after all. We just forget it until sometimes something like starlight wakes us up to it again. And now, our morning's anthem.
This morning's anthem is Winter Sun by Don MacDonald. The poetry is by Malka Lidovitz, and it's a rich description of Canadian winter with lots of lovely wintry word painting. This was recorded last year by Fusion, which means that it was done in the virtual choir style. Every chorister recorded themselves alone at home, and then it was edited and put together by Deirdre. It just seemed like a very perfect choice for today's service, and so we're going to have a listen to it. As always with virtual choir projects, I think they're a lovely testament to the, ingenuity and resilience of choral singers when you can't sing together, which also relates to the, creativity and resilience that we have to display in winter. So I think it's an extra lovely choice for today. Please enjoy this recording from Fusion and from Deirdre.
Thank you. And now our invitation to the offering. During the continuing pandemic, we rely on your generosity as much as ever. Whenever and wherever you are watching this, you're invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you might keep up with your pledge or make a donation. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now our closing hymn, Dark of Winter.
Let my thoughts go where they will. Ease my mind profoundly. And then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me. And then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
Thank you, Jen. Before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that our hospitality hour will begin at 11:30 a.m. We extinguish our chalice this morning to words from Barbara Peskin. We can extinguish this flame now because we know that in each of us glows the truth and the love to help all of us light the way forward together. May we carry the flame forward. Blessed are we, and blessed may we be. Go in peace. Go making peace. Our chalice is extinguished, but our connections and faith remain. With that said, Jen, please, will you bless us once again?
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea.
However you are taking part in this time of celebration and reflection, please reach out to those around you, others who are sharing this time, whenever you're watching this. My friends, go in peace, go in love, go in joy, go to help make more peace for all, so that all may be well. But don't go far. Our hospitality hour will begin at 11:30, but first, our postlude.